The California Reparations Task Force is recommending that the state issue a formal apology and payments to eligible black residents for the state's legacy of discrimination. This weekend, the task force met in Oakland, nearing the end of its work. They're finally answering the question of what reparations could look like.
Welcome to the California Reparations Task Force 15th public hearing.
Meeting in Oakland, the California Reparations Task Force voting on its final proposals due in July. Their mission: first, study slavery and its lingering negative effects on African Americans, and second, to develop proposals for remedies through policy changes and potentially cash payments.
And the question becomes, if you did all that labor for all these years, your ancestors, how would you feel?
Dr. Amos Brown is vice chairman of the 9-person task force.
There are going to be people who say California was admitted into the union as a free state, so why should California taxpayers be on the hook for reparations?
Because they benefited from California being complicit with the slave states.
The task force focused on these lingering effects of slavery in its 500-page interim report released last summer. The report details 12 areas to be addressed, from the unjust legal system to housing discrimination, separate and unequal education, to racism in the environment and infrastructure. Of the dozens of harms identified, the task force highlights policy changes to address 7 areas and a combination of policy and cash payments to address the other 5. The task force found that a black Californian at least 71 years old that can trace their lineage back to an enslaved person could receive up to $1.2 million in cash payments if the recommendations are voted into law by the legislature.
How likely is it that the recommendations that you put forward to the state legislature will actually come true?
It was our moral obligation and practical obligation to state the harm, to present the facts of the crime that was done. And in terms of what should be paid, the state assembly and the Senate have a heart, have a conscience. They would hopefully do the right thing. We know what our value is.